the complete evolution of whales. It all started 50 million years ago. That distant time was a haven for mammals. There were no dinosaurs for almost 15 million years, and nothing prevented mammals from living as masters of the earth and slowly evolving. These are the descendants of land mammals, cetaceans. Unlike fish, whose spine bends in a horizontal plane when swimming, in cetaceans it moves in a vertical plane. Modern whales and dolphins cannot live on land and look very unusual compared to land mammals. How did land animals turn into sea monsters? Now you will understand everything. Mesonychians were considered to be the distant ancestors of cetaceans, extinct predators. These animals looked like giant dogs, with small hooves on their paws instead of claws. Mesonychia were quite diverse. Some animals were the size of cats. Other Mesonychia could reach the size of a large bear. Among these creatures, semi-aquatic fish-eating forms are also known, haplodects. However, most Mesonychia were terrestrial predators and scavengers. The structure of the skull and teeth of these ancient mammals has long given reason to believe that cetaceans descended directly from Mesonychians. The next stage of evolution turned haplodects into a new species of animals called Endocheus. This animal belongs to the order Artiodactyls. In its build and size it resembled not whales at all, but modern deer from the tragulid family. Tragulids lived in West Africa and Southeast Asia. The habitats of these animals were quite diverse. These were dense forests and scrub and mangroves. Tragulids could swim and dive well. Indohyus was extremely similar to these animals both in appearance and in characteristic features. These are Archaeocetes, primitive Eocene cetaceans. Ancient whales, Archaeocetes, were divided into 5 families. These are Pachycetids, Ambulocetids, Remingtonocetids, Protocetids, and Basilosaurids. Pachycetids lived in the early Eocene, about 52 million years ago, on the northern coast of the subtropical inland Tethys Sea. These were large-headed and long-muzzled animals with hooves on their toes and long tails. Pachycetus and Nalacetus retimatus were similar in size to a wolf, and Ichthyolestes pinfoldi looked like a fox. Pachycetids swam well using wave-like body movements. However, the ears of Pachycetids were adapted to perceive sounds in the air rather than in the aquatic environment. These animals lived on land, foraging in and around shallow freshwater bodies, much like modern tapirs. Skeletons of Pachycetids have been found in Pakistan and northwestern India, in river sediments. Apparently, these places were the center of origin of cetaceans. Then Ambuloca paradiddus natans, swimming walking whale. An almost complete skeleton of this animal was found in northern Pakistan in sediments dating back about 49 million years ago. The appearance of the 3-meter Ambulocetus resembled a large-headed crocodile. When swimming, the body of the ancient animal bent in a vertical plane, like that of modern whales, seals, and otters. Ambulocetes hunted like crocodiles, lying in wait for their victims in shallow water. These animals could not run on land. Ambulocetes had powerful jaws and teeth and were capable of killing fairly large prey. The structure of the nose allowed the amphibian whale to swallow food directly in the water. The animal could hunt both in salt waters and in fresh water bodies. The Ambulocetid family includes 2 more genera. These are Gandacasia and Hymelaeocetus. Smaller relatives of Ambulocetids were Remingtonocetids. These animals had highly elongated jaws and were somewhat better adapted for underwater swimming than Ambulocetids. If we compare amphibian whales in general appearance with crocodiles, then Ambulocetids more closely resembled alligators, and Remingtonocetids resembled gharials. 6 genera of rhamnocetids are known. The sizes of these animals were small. For example, the cockhytset or Cuchicitus minimus was not larger than the river otter. For Andrewsiphius or Andrewsiphius sloani, the presence of a powerful flattened tail has been established, which served as the main organ of movement in the aquatic environment. Rhaenist or Rhaenist zephyr, found in the Middle Eocene of Egypt, demonstrates that rhamnocetids reached the southern coast of Tethys. Protocetids, who lived 40 million years ago from shallow waters, moved to real depths. These animals developed an elongated, powerful tail, which enabled them to swim quickly. At the same time, protocetids retained developed hind limbs. The way of life of these ancient whales can be compared with modern large pinnipeds. Protocetids had small teeth, and therefore these predators swallowed prey whole. These were the first cetaceans that managed to spread beyond the Tethys Sea. The largest of the protocetids reached lengths of over 3 meters or 10 feet and weighed up to 500 kilograms or 1,100 pounds. The most famous ancient whales. These are Protocetus and Rhodocetus. Macrocetus bidens looked peculiar, which had a short proboscis that could be used for collecting mollusks and other animals from the bottom. Mayacidae. Male Mayacidae were larger than females and had more powerful fangs. The first truly giant whales, Basilosaurids. These animals lived in the late Eocene, approximately 40 million years ago. Basilosaurs were distributed throughout the world. Representatives of the Basilosauridae subfamily were huge. The serpentine body of Basilosaurus reached a mass of up to 6 tons or 13,000 pounds. The length of a large representative of Basilosaurus could be up to 20 meters 6 feet. Dorodontans. These Basilosaurus were dolphin-like in appearance, weighing 1.5 tons or 3,000 pounds and reaching lengths of up to 6 meters or 20 feet. Despite their external resemblance to modern cetaceans, Basilosaurids were not capable of ultrasonic echolocation and acoustic communication. The relatively small brain indicates that Basilosauridae lacked the complex social behavior found in modern whales and dolphins. The largest archaeocete and the largest mammal of its time. This is a Basilosaurus or Basilosaurus cetoides. The structure of the spine of Basilosaurus suggests that when swimming the animal could wriggle like a snake. Most likely, Basilosaurus was not capable of long swimming and deep diving. The animal also could not go onto land. Basilosaurs hunted large prey. For example, on sharks and Dorodontans. 8 years ago, a complete skeleton of an 18-meter Basilosaurus with the remains of another whale inside was found in Egypt. If you look at the inside of the body of a modern whale, you can find real hind limbs. These body parts have not disappeared from whales, but are hidden inside and serve to attach the muscles of the genital organs. Modern groups of cetaceans. These are the toothed Odontocidae and the baleen Mysticidae. These whale species appeared in the late Eocene, about 40 million years ago. A sharp increase in the brain in toothed whales is observed twice. Initially in the earliest forms 40 million years ago and then in dolphins 15 million years ago. The suborder of toothed whales includes dolphins, narwhals, porpoises, and sperm whales. Most of these species live in the oceans. Coastal, polar, tropical, and oceanic species are known. All of them are active predators, catching fish and squid or, like killer whales, hunting other cetaceans, as well as penguins and pinnipeds. Unlike modern baleen whales, odontocetes have teeth and are capable of echolocation. Modern baleen whales have lost their teeth, but have acquired baleen, which they use to filter large volumes of small prey. Baleen whales are the largest animal creation in history. This is a blue whale, Catalochromaceae. This is an Oligocene toothed whale from the extinct family of xenorophids that lived off the coast of South Carolina 28 million years ago. And this is Hyaenodon. The toothless end of the upper jaw of this animal turned into a long process that served as a deadly weapon, like a swordfish. This sword-beaked dolphin was small, just about 2 meters or 6.5 feet, but the related Macrodelphinus kalagi reached killer whale sizes of 8 meters or 25 feet, representatives of the genus Squalodon from the family of shark-toothed dolphins Squalodontidae had long, narrow jaws. Numerous species of the Kentriodontid family resembled modern delphinid dolphins in appearance, which appeared about 15 million years ago. Cymocedus ray, separated into an independent family of cymocedids, received the name snub-nosed dolphin. The short jaws of Cymocedus were noticeably curved downwards, and the sparsely spaced teeth served more for sifting food than for tearing. The 2-meter-long Porpoise semirostrum ceruttii, which lived 3 million years ago, had a lower jaw twice as long as its upper jaw. This part of the body was used as a special sensitive organ to search for food by touch in muddy water at the very bottom. The history of the Platanostoidea group of river dolphins can be traced back to the late Oligocene, when representatives of this species still lived in marine basins. It turns out that these animals were not related to each other at all. The blind gangetic dolphin Platanista belongs to a lineage of archaic toothed whales related to squalodontids. But the Amazonian Inia, the Laplaton Pondoporia, and the Lake Lipotes come from different extinct groups. The most unusual appearance among the extinct toothed whales was Odobenistops from the Pliocene. The fossil animal was named by this name due to its external resemblance to the modern walrus. Odobenistops can be translated as walrus-headed whale. It is a small dolphin placed in its own family, Odobenocetopsidae, related to narwhals and porpoises. Like the walrus, Odobenistops fed on benthic invertebrates, collecting them with its large, fleshy upper lip with sensitive vibrissae. The tusks were not used for obtaining food, but served as mating weapons for males. About 20 million years ago, sperm whales Physeteroidea appeared. They are specialized squid hunters. Some neogene sperm whales were the killer whales of their time, occupying the ecological niche of killer whales about 3 million years ago. Zygophoceter verili. This whale appeared 10 million years ago. The animal was 7 meters or 23 feet long, with a powerful skull and numerous large teeth in the upper and lower jaws. 2 more killer sperm whales, the 7-meter Brygmophyseter shigensis and Acrophoceter, which reached only 4 meters in length, but also occupied the niche of active sea hunters. The giant killer sperm whale Liviaton melvillei reached 18 meters or 59 feet and weighed about 40 tons or 40,000 pounds, approximately like the males of a modern sperm whale. It can be assumed that the appearance of such large predators was associated with the development of gigantism among baleen whales. Baleen whales evolved from Archaeocetes, apparently at high latitudes. The toothy Gangicetus hunderi is very unusual. Gangicetus was an active predator that hunted large fish, including sharks, and was ecologically similar to the leopard seal. Mammilodons. Ancient animals had sparsely set teeth. Mammilodons fed on bottom-dwelling invertebrates by filtering mud. Filter-feeding baleen whales evolved from precisely these forms and species. Darwin called ink strainers. In the mid-Oligocene, about 30 million years ago, filter-feeding baleen whales appeared. Ancient right whales roamed the oceans 23 million years ago. The Balænopteridae, which include the giant blue whale, appeared in the North Atlantic about 12 million years ago. Balænoptera sibaldina was not inferior in size to the blue whale. Cetatherium. This was a very diverse group of small whales. More than 50 species and about 20 genera. Cetatheriums were hunted by killer sperm whales, as well as giant megalodon sharks. Cetaceans gradually mastered the world ocean, giving rise to a huge variety of forms of very diverse appearance and size. Cetaceans have become one of the few groups of mammals with a well-reconstructed evolutionary history. Undoubtedly, new studies of fossil and modern species in the near future will significantly complement and detail the emerging picture. Greetings to all our subscribers. All those who are interested in the evolution of our Earth, historical facts about dinosaurs and other creatures that lived millions of years ago. Today our episode is dedicated to a period of time that has passed relatively recently compared to the times when dinosaurs lived. We will begin the story from the moment when man appeared. So, let's go! We live with you in the modern world. Humanity stands at the highest stage of evolution. But this only seems to us. Changes are happening to us people too. But very slowly. Just some 500 years ago, a person would have considered speeding supersonic planes and fast cars a miracle, and would have considered space flights to be devilish tricks and blasphemy. There is nothing to say about computers, phones, and the internet. The knights of the Middle Ages would have mass hysteria. And this is only some 500 years ago. What can we say about 1,000 years ago? About millions of years ago? Changes are happening to us. Very slower than we realize, but very fast compared to the changes that took place millions of years ago. And the structure of our body and organism also undergoes changes. In a couple of thousand years, we may look something like this. Or maybe even this. Or maybe so. Now we're going back in time. About 4 million years ago, when the monkey was still a very common monkey. But this was already the most ancient human ancestor. Man did not descend from apes. He essentially remained a monkey. Only modern, reasonable, and at times civilized. But what happened anyway? Many millions of years ago. Then began the exact moment when changes slowly began to occur in her body. They happened very slowly, thousands of years. The first modifications appeared when the monkey was no longer a monkey, but it was still far from being human. There is a theory that a group of monkeys that lived on the future African continent 5 million years ago split up and dispersed over a vast territory. From one group, humans emerged, and the other transformed into the closest species to humans that we know today. It's a chimpanzee. One group evolved into hominids, and you and I appeared. And the other stopped in evolution. But the chimpanzee is by far the most intelligent animal and very closely similar in development to humans. And it is likely that after many years the chimpanzee will become the creatures that will look like the characters from the cult films about the Planet of the Apes. The group of hominid monkeys that turned into humans was facilitated by earthly disasters, forest fires, floods, and, as a result, temperature changes. nature forced the monkeys to come down from the trees. But on the ground, they had to learn completely new methods of survival. A change in diet and a different defense against enemies turned primates into intelligent monkeys. Then it was the predators who greatly contributed to the development of the future man, and it was they who forced the monkey to pick up a stone from the ground and use it as a weapon. We all evolve, like other creatures on the planet, continuously and every day. We just have to understand that such a process is very leisurely and very slow, lasting thousands and thousands of years. All living beings on our planet had common ancestors. But evolution never tries to create something intelligent. In all cases, it depends on the creatures themselves. Circumstances of life that can go one way or another. And therefore, several million years passed before man became man. But let's go back to the Miocene era 10 million years ago. It was then that the Miocene Dryopithecus already existed. They were half terrestrial, half arboreal apes. Dryopithecus lived in the tropical rainforests of Africa, but their traces of activity in bones were also found in the forest steppes. But there are also known facts of their residence in Eastern Europe and in the territory of the modern Caucasus. For 0.2 to 1 million years ago, evolution created a new species from Dryopithecus Australopithecus, which is considered the closest to the ancestral form of humans. Australopithecus also lived in Africa. His body was covered with thick hair, and in appearance he was closer to a monkey than to a man. However, he already walked on 2 legs and used various objects as tools, which was facilitated by the spaced big toe. The volume of his brain was smaller than that of a human, but larger than that of modern apes. This species was divided into 3 groups: early Australopithecines, who lived from 4 to 7 million years ago. Gracile Australopithecines 2 to 4 million years ago. And the massive Australopithecus from 1 to 2.5 million years ago. Judge for yourself how slowly the evolution of the transformation from monkey to man occurs. It was in Australopithecus that signs of upright walking began to appear and the structure of the skull changed. Australopithecus played a significant role in human evolution. The species Homo sapiens, or Homo sapiens, traces its roots to Australopithecines, splitting from a common root with Australopithecines approximately 3 million years ago, and this group was called the evolutionary group. For 3 million years, these creatures were nothing more than apes, walking human-like on 2 legs, albeit hunched over. Perhaps in the end they knew how to use available stones to crack, for example, nuts. The life expectancy of Australopithecus, which was constantly under threat not only from predators, but also from some large herbivores, was insignificant and averaged 20 years. Almost none of them lived to be 40 years old, and 1 in 7 lived to be 30. The next link in evolution was made up of a new group, Pithecanthropus. Translated from Greek, monkey man. Pithecanthropus appeared about 1.5 million years ago. the short stature of the future man was a little more than 1.5 meters. In terms of brain volume, Pithecanthropus occupied an intermediate position between Homo habilis on the one hand and Neanderthal man and Homo sapiens on the other. A skilled person had a brain volume that was half that of most modern adults. What did Pithecanthropus do? Well, of course, their main occupation was searching for food. And in addition to collecting edible herbs and berries, they were already hunting various animals with might and main because the vegetation was not enough for the body, which already required proteins and fats. Parts of the skeletons of rhinoceroses, elephants, hippopotamuses, and giraffes were discovered near the bones of Pithecanthropus. There were stone tools nearby. Paleontologists also found the first tools used by Pithecanthropus. The danger from wild animals and climatic conditions forced them to do this. Living in large groups made it easier to hunt large animals that were distinguished by their remarkable strength and speed of movement. In addition to hunting, Pithecanthropus could engage in fishing, most often catching fish with their bare hands. In the next stage of evolution, Neanderthals appeared approximately 500,000 years ago. To date, it has been proven that Neanderthals are not the direct ancestors of modern humans. Their common ancestor has not yet been precisely established. It is attributed either to the human predecessor or to the Heidelberg people of Africa. Neanderthals were shorter and broader in the shoulders than modern humans, but they also had a larger brain and may have been able to speak. They also already made tools. Wooden spears with stone tips, scrapers, axes. They actively used fire. They ate mainly meat, although they also ate plants. In addition, Neanderthals used medicinal plants. There is also evidence beyond treating diseases. These are the burial places of deceased family members, traces of rituals and the first worship of deities. Initially, a few Neanderthals could have mixed with representatives of more numerous populations, with Denisovans, possibly with Cro-Magnons, as the authors interpret the results of genetic studies. But some geneticists suggest that the presence of Neanderthal and Denisovan genes in modern people could have appeared not as a result of their hybridization, but from polymorphism of the genes of their common ancestor, with whom the evolutionary branches of modern people, Neanderthals and Denisovans, diverged earlier 700 to 765,000 years ago. Well, the final stage of development was the Cro-Magnons, who appeared much later than the Neanderthals. The Cro-Magnon man is the ancestor of all modern humans. Appearing in East Africa approximately 130 to 180,000 years ago, they were actually no different from modern humans. The Cro-Magnons inherited from their ancestors a large active brain and quite practical technology, thanks to which they took an unprecedented step forward in a relatively short period of time. This manifested itself in aesthetics, the development of communication and symbol systems, tool-making technology, and active adaptation to external conditions, as well as in new forms of social organization and a more complex approach to one's own kind. The Cro-Magnons lived in communities of 20 to 100 people and created settlements for the first time in history. The Cro-Magnons, like the Neanderthals, lived in caves and tents made of skins. In Eastern Europe they built dugouts, and in Siberia they built huts made of stone slabs. They had articulate speech, built houses, and dressed in clothes made from skins. They lived in a tribal society and tamed a dog. Succeeded in hunting wild animals. It was the Cro-Magnons from Africa who began to gradually move west. Both the remains of these human ancestors and their cave paintings were discovered in France. They were 6,000 years old. About 400 million years ago, there were no dinosaurs or pterodactyls on Earth, and the ancient ancestors of modern sharks were already roaming the world's oceans. Sharks. These ancient monsters arouse interest among people, mixed with a feeling of unconscious fear. There are more myths and legends about these incredible creatures than about any other sea creatures. It is believed that sharks are the most advanced predators on our planet. But until now, these fear-generating fish keep undisclosed secrets about themselves. From what creature did the creepy, but at the same time beautiful sharks originate? 450 million years ago, a small creature without any name swam in the most ancient sea. It became the progenitor of modern sharks. What did it look like? Unknown. We only know that it was no more than 30 centimeters, or just under a foot. Cladocecalia. Ancient cartilaginous fish that lived 370 million years ago. These were fish that bore the basic structural features of sharks. These ancients could not be called small. 2 meters or 6 feet long. Complete absence of scales, and a small number of smooth teeth. The Devonian period passed without rapid evolution of sharks. But the Carboniferous period became the era of maximum shark diversity. Sharks of the most diverse and amazing shapes appeared. Xenacanths. Like most fossil sharks, Xenacanthus is known primarily from its preserved teeth and spines. The xenacanth reached a length of approximately 1 meter or 3.5 feet. Like many other early cartilaginous fishes, Xenacanthus had an elongated body and in appearance resembled modern eels or frilled sharks. This shark's teeth were V-shaped. Xenacanthus ate small crustaceans and creatures called paleonisces. The caudal fin merged with the dorsal and anal fins. A distinctive feature of the Xenacanthus was the dorsal spine growing from the back of the head. It is assumed that this accessory served to protect against larger predators and may have been poisonous, like the spines of modern stingrays or catrons. Stethocanth. Externally, the stethocanth resembled a very small shark. No more than a meter, no more than 3 feet. The dorsal fin of this fish resembled an ironing board. There were small spines all over the shark's body. The fins served to attract attention or scare away larger predators. Also, the fin could be a sucker, which is found in modern fishes such as Echinidae. In addition, this fin was only found in sexually mature stethocanthid males. The well-known Helicoprion, and one of the most bizarre ancient ancestors of sharks. The complete body structure of the shark remains unknown, but the lower jaw with spiral-shaped teeth resembles a real circular saw. There is a pre-sex. It was surprising that Helicoprion plowed up mollusks from the seabed. It is possible that Helicoprion and related forms fed on ammonites. In this case, the spiral made it possible, for example, to trim the tentacles, and the jaw teeth to crush the shells. But perhaps Helicoprions ate fish. The spiral inflicted serious wounds on the victim, and the remaining teeth made it possible to eat thick-scaled prey. There are suggestions that Helicoprion ate squid, krill shrimp, and other soft food. The diameter of the spiral of the typical Helicoprion species reached 25 centimeters or 10 inches. This suggests that the entire fish is about 3 meters or 10 feet long. The literature describes spirals up to 90 centimeters or up to 36 inches in diameter. The length of such a shark could reach 12 meters or 40 feet. It remained a mystery to scientists how Helicoprion used the spiral-shaped jaw in its life, but there are many different hypotheses on this matter. The main competitors of sharks in the seas were placoderms. These were monsters covered in bone armor, the most famous of which is Dunkleosteus. Ancient sharks relied on speed and maneuverability, and this allowed them to dominate the seas until the end of the Carboniferous. During the Permian period, the evolution of sharks slowed down sharply. Bony fish began to displace shark-like fish from ecosystems. And 245 million years ago, the catastrophe at the end of the Permian period caused enormous damage to sharks. Climate changes that continued throughout the Permian period led to a critical drop in sea level. At the same time, volcanic activity increased. The release of toxic gases into the atmosphere caused a volcanic winter and acidification of ocean water. 95% of all species of sea creatures died. The few surviving species of sharks had to fight for life in a completely new world. A lot of ecological niches have become free. The sharks took advantage of this situation, and reproduction was not long in coming. A sharp reduction in the number of large aquatic predators allowed reptiles to switch to an aquatic lifestyle. The seas are becoming the scene of intense competition between sharks and reptiles, in which bony fish largely remain the role of prey. During the evolutionary race, pelagic sharks acquire their modern appearance. Ideal body shape, large mouth with movable upper jaw, excellent sensory system, viviparity in some species. And sharp teeth, changing like on a conveyor belt, cause much more dangerous injuries. Gradually, sharks begin to displace reptiles from the ecological niches of medium-sized predators, but remain in the shadow of the giants. The long Cretaceous period begins. Competitors of the Triassic and Jurassic periods. Ichthyosaurs. These giants retreated from the race, ceding vast territories to the sharks for development and domination. The evolution of sharks is proceeding rapidly really. Sharks up to 10 meters long, or up to 33 feet, begin to appear. Throughout the Cenozoic, various groups of mammals transitioned to an aquatic lifestyle. Among the animals there were predators, ungulates, and even waterfowl sloths. The toothy mouths of sharks were waiting for them all in the sea. Cetaceans, in order to resist sharks, became larger, reaching modern sizes in the Eocene. But sharks are not far behind the cetacean giants. By the Miocene, about 23 million years ago, one of the largest predators in history, Megalodon, 18 meters or 59 feet of fury. The weight of this giant was more than 30 tons. Huge teeth with a sawtooth edge, reaching 18 centimeters or 7 inches in length. The colossal power of the jaws allows you to open the chest or bite the tail fin of a whale. Megalodon was the ruler of warm shelf seas, preferring slow-moving, medium-sized cetaceans. Large size and narrow specialization were the basis of the power and vulnerability of the shark. Megalodon translates to big tooth, and these teeth have helped researchers learn a lot about the animal, from its size to what it ate. The entire preserved Megalodon skeleton was never found. Megalodon became extinct 2.5 million years ago. This king of sharks left no descendants. But with the extinction of Megalodon, the story of sharks is not over. Treasures. This extinct predator lived on Earth 100 million years ago. Cladocelasci are a good example of what early species of sharks looked like. Despite being considered the first species of shark, they had a fish-like head with 7 gills instead of the usual 5, and their body was longer and less muscular than modern sharks today. Their extinction occurred about 250 million years ago. Orthocanthus. Orthocanthus was a freshwater shark that lived in Europe and North America. Its distinguishing feature was a spike protruding from its head, which was thought to ward off predators and may even have been poisonous. They hid in waters thick with foliage, providing excellent hunting grounds for stealth predators. Orthocanthus sharks swam in these waters with long, flexible bodies adapted to fit into narrow crevices. For this reason, they are sometimes called eel sharks. Edestus. Edestus sharks, also known as scissor sharks, lived for more than 300 million years back. Their teeth grew differently than those of modern sharks, forming a single line from the back of the mouth to the front. As new teeth grew in the back of their mouth, this caused the new teeth to protrude outward. The lack of fossils on shark bodies leaves many unanswered questions. They likely hunted by either slicing or piercing their prey with their unique teeth, but what exactly they ate is unknown. One theory is that sharks were specialized hunters. If this were the case, the death of their prey may have led to their own extinction. Scapanorhynchus. Scapanorhynchus went extinct just over 5 million years ago. Before that, they sailed the Atlantic Ocean for more than 140 million years. They had long, pointed snouts and teeth designed to catch and tear apart prey, but most sharks of this genus were incredibly small. Most species measured just over 2 feet, 65 centimeters. Scapanorhynchus sharks hunted by hiding in the ocean depths, patiently waiting for prey to pass by. They were not fast swimmers and were therefore rather passive hunters. These sharks are very similar to the goblin sharks that live today, but some key changes set them apart, including their fins. Enisopleurodontus. Enisopleurodontus is a genus of shark, but there is only one species in this genus. They went extinct almost 300 million years ago and were closely related to the ratfish. They are thought to have been about 6 to 10 feet, 2 to 3 meters, long, with large heads and mouths. Unlike modern ratfish, Enisopleurodontus may have eaten only fish. It is also possible that their diet consisted of fish and shelled prey. As of the end of 2021, there are 512 species of sharks, but this number is almost certain to grow. Why is this? Well, there are 23 species of sharks that await scientific description in order to be considered authentic. This brings the likely total number of sharks spotted to 535. This is what boggles the mind. If you were to pick up a book on sharks published in 2000, it would list 405 species of sharks. That's because 107 new shark species have been added since the turn of the century. It is likely that completely new species of sharks will be discovered in the coming years. Since sharks tend to be very large, you may be surprised how we still discover so many different sharks. After all, there was a 35-year gap between the discovery of the last 2 carnivorous mammals. There are several reasons why scientists continue to discover new shark species. This may seem simplistic, but sharks live in the water and are simply less likely to be encountered. One species of shark, the Pondicherry shark, was called the lost shark because it had not been seen since the 1970s. However, one of them was quickly discovered by a television crew who was looking for this species at the fish market. Many sharks are deep-sea sharks. In other words, they lived hundreds or even thousands of feet below the surface. Humans only come into contact with these species on rare trips to such depths or when they wash ashore. There are no differences between different types of sharks. Each shark falls into the classification Chondrichthyes, which basically just identifies them as cartilaginous fishes. This means that they are fish with an internal skeleton made of flexible cartilage rather than bone. Greenland sharks. They are a type of dog shark and the oldest living vertebrate. This group includes swallowers, whale sharks, dog sharks, lantern sharks, and sleeper sharks. There are a total of 131 different species of sharks, such as guinea pigs, making them one of the most diverse shark species. In fact, 24% of all shark species belong to this order. It is likely that new dog shark species will continue to be discovered. Most lantern sharks live deep in the ocean. For example, Ninja Lantern's hark was only discovered in 2015. There are only 7 species of cow sharks and frilly sharks. Frilly shark, a living fossil with very primitive facial features. It somewhat resembles an eel and can reach more than 2 meters in length. Likes to eat cuttlefish, octopus, small sharks, and squid. South African great shark, a newly discovered species that was only described in 2009. Blunt-nosed shark, commonly known as the cow shark. One of the largest shark species, capable of reaching 20 feet in length. Saw shark. The muzzle of this predator looks like a real saw. There are several species of saw sharks. Some can be no more than 5 feet or 1.5 meters in size, and some are real giants by modern standards, 25 feet or 8 meters. Bahamas saw shark. The saw shark lives in deeper waters than other species and reaches 1,000 meters below the ocean surface. Long-nosed saw shark. This shark's sawtooth snout makes up 30% of its total body length. In the angel shark species, there are 22 different species of sharks that belong to the same family and genus. Unfortunately, angel sharks are among the most endangered sharks in the world. These sharks live on the ocean floor close to the coastline, which means they are often caught in fishing nets. Here are some famous species of angel sharks. Angel shark. The first species of angel shark described by scientists is known simply as the angel shark. This species is also now listed as endangered. Philippine angel shark. Only one specimen was caught and was declared a new species in 2011. And these are the types of bull sharks or bull sharks. Bull sharks are very distinctive and their lineage can be traced back to the Jurassic period, when giant sauropod dinosaurs such as Brontosaurus ruled the land. Species of bull sharks include horned shark. This representative of sharks lives along the Pacific coast, from California to South America. Horned sharks use suction, feeding primarily on mollusks and crustaceans. Zebra shark. One of 2 sharks starting with Z. If anyone ever asks you to name a shark that starts with Z, then you'll be ready to say it. A type of shark includes Jaws himself. Mackerel sharks include great whites, thresher sharks, and sandbar sharks. Interestingly, while this order includes hunters such as great white sharks, it also includes giant basking sharks, which are filter feeders and do not hunt prey. Additionally, this species of shark has some very strange-looking additions such as the goblin shark. Here are some species of mackerel sharks you need to know about. Great white shark. The largest predatory shark in the world, the great white shark is the apex predator in oceans around the world. Short-toed mako. The fastest shark in the world. Recent tests have shown that the shark can reach speeds of up to 46 miles per hour. Goblin sharks, some of the most unique-looking sharks in the world. The goblin shark is rarely seen. She has a long snout that looks like a sword. Salmon sharks. They can use their body as a heater to survive in extremely cold waters. There are 45 different species of carpet sharks, and they vary greatly in size. This type of shark includes the whale shark, which is the largest fish in the world. This also includes various smaller shark species such as nurse sharks, bamboo sharks, and wobbegongs. Carpet sharks include whale shark, the largest species of shark in the world, capable of reaching over 60 feet in length. Epaulet shark, a species capable of walking on land when washed ashore in tide pools. An ornate wobbegong. It lives in Australian waters and has one of the most distinctive camouflages of any shark species. The largest order of sharks, with 296 species, land sharks cover a huge variety of species. In fact, 55% of all shark spies are land sharks. For example, there are over 140 species of cat sharks. Yes, there are cat sharks and dog sharks, common among the shark species. Land sharks also include hammerheads, tiger sharks, and reef sharks. Tiger sharks, the second largest predatory shark after the great white. Tiger sharks are voracious hunters and are known to eat almost any prey they can find. Atlantic ghost shark, the third largest shark species in the world. Bull sharks, a notoriously aggressive shark species that can live in both fresh and salt water. The largest is called deep blue and weighs about 5,000 pounds. What other shark is as admired as the great white? Great white sharks are the most aggressive sharks in the world, having committed 333 attacks since 1958. However, it's important to remember that cows kill 20 people every year, while great white sharks have killed 4 Americans in the last decade. The great white shark is the apex predator of the seas, rivaled only like killer whales. Fact about the wild great hammerhead shark. Great hammerhead sharks spend 90% of their time swimming sideways. There are 9 hammerhead sharks in the genus Sphyrna, but the great hammerhead shark is the largest in the list of shark species. Hammerhead's unique shape is called a cephalopod, and it gives them 360-degree vision and excellent depth perception. It can also be used as a weapon. Hammerheads use their heads as battering rams to drive stingrays, one of their favorite foods, into the ground. Wild tiger shark fact: tiger sharks are very food-oriented. Scientists tracking shark movements noticed that while all other sharks were fleeing the hurricane in 2017, tiger sharks moved into the hurricane in hopes of an easy meal. If it weren't for great white sharks, tiger sharks would likely have replaced jaws. This species is quite large, with the largest tiger sharks weighing up to 1,700 pounds. They are also the second most aggressive shark after the great white. Analysis of their stomachs revealed humpback whales, dolphins, sea turtles, and even antelope. Fact about the wild spinner shark. Spinner sharks can spin up to 3 times after jumping out of the water. They are the gymnasts of the shark world. The spinner shark hunts by spinning rapidly. As it spins, it darts through groups of fish and snaps its jaws in all directions. After breaking through groups of fish, she comes to the surface, where she performs a series of spins that would make even world-class gymnasts green with envy. Fact about the wild blunt-nosed shark. Can reach 20 feet in length, about the same length as a great white shark. 6 main sharks are among the most prehistoric sharks in the world. Scientists trace their origins back over 200 million years. Blunt-nosed 6 main sharks are often called cow sharks due to their sluggish movements and large size. However, they can be quite fast and aggressive when threatened. Largemouth sharks are deep-sea sharks that are rarely seen. They reach up to 13 feet in length and have something you might not associate with sharks: glowing pores around their mouths. Scientists believe these pores attract krill and other small organisms that largemouth sharks feed on through the pores to filter. Surprisingly, this unique shark belongs to the same type of shark as great whites. Fact about the wild porbeagle shark. Sharks can turn their body into a heater. Porbeagle sharks live in the cold waters of the North Atlantic and Antarctica. As you can imagine, such cold water requires unique adaptations from the shark. As for the sea shark, they can heat their body to a temperature of 14 to 18 degrees Fahrenheit, higher than the ambient water temperature. Fact about the wild bonnethead shark. Bonnetheads were the first in history to be confirmed as omnivores. In 2018, a scientific study showed that 60% of the cutthroat shark's diet consisted of seaweed. This makes the bighead shark the first known omnivorous shark to feed on a plant-based and meat-based diet equally. Loggerhead sharks are also the smallest species of hammerheads. Greenland sharks are the oldest living vertebrates on Earth. They can potentially live up to 500 years. Greenland sharks belong to a family known as sleeper sharks, which are known for their low activity and are extremely slow-moving. Not very interesting, is it? Well, Greenland sharks are also distinguished by their very large size. They can reach 24 feet in length, which is longer than the longest great white shark. Plus, Greenland sharks can live for over 500 years. Scientists studying Greenland sharks found that one shark was between 272 and 512 years old. Greenland shark meat is also toxic, but is eaten in Iceland. To eat it, shark meat must be buried in the ground for a long time. Finally, Greenland sharks eat almost anything. Even moose have been found in their stomachs. Fact about the wild blue shark. Female blue sharks have skin twice as thick as males, allowing them to survive being bitten during mating. Requiem sharks are a large family of sharks that are effective hunters. This family includes tiger sharks, reef sharks, bull sharks, and, yes, the blue shark. Requiem sharks are distinguished by the fact that they give birth live and migrate. Blue sharks reach 10 feet in length and have torpedo-shaped bodies that help them reach impressive speeds. Wild horned shark fact. Horned sharks can extend their jaws to use them as a chisel for clams attached to the surface. Horned sharks are one of the few species in the order bull sharks. This species can extend its jaw 15% of the length of its head in 1/50th of a second, an action that allows it to butcher prey attached to a surface. This adaptation has served horned sharks well, as they can trace their ancestry back to the Jurassic period, when dinosaurs dominated the planet. This makes bull sharks one of the most prehistoric sharks surviving to this day. Wild nurse shark fact. Nurse sharks are sea vacuum cleaners. Nurse sharks live on the ocean floor near beaches. They are mostly harmless to humans, but can grow quite large, over 10 feet in length. Nurse sharks feed in an interesting way and have catfish-like whiskers on their snouts that are used to smell food. They then swim, or even walk using their fins, along the ocean floor and suck the prey into their mouths. This species has a special cavity in its mouth that allows for incredible suction. Once prey is in the mouth, its teeth are specialized for crushing the shells of mollusks and crustaceans. As we already said, they are real marine vacuum cleaners. Wild basking shark fact: they can weigh up to 32,000 pounds. Basking sharks are the basking, second largest species of shark. We're number one soon, while their average length approaches 26 feet when fully grown. The largest basking shark to ever exist measured 40 feet in length and was estimated to weigh 32,000 pounds. This is one big fish. If you see a photo of a giant shark and think they look scarier than they actually are harmless to humans and are filter fed. The basking shark is a mackerel shark closely related to great whites, which helps explain its appearance. Fact about wild culinary sharks: these are parasitic sharks that cut out cookie dough-shaped pieces from the animals they hunt. Yes, this is one of the weirder species of sharks. We're about to meet some downright weird shark species, so it's appropriate to start with the butcher shark. Never heard of them before? Cooking sharks spend their days up to 2 miles deep in the ocean and migrate to surface. These sharks are small, measuring less than 2 feet in length. Cutting sharks search for prey and attach themselves to it using a suction cup. Once they attach, they bite in with 2 to 3 inches of teeth and pull out a piece of meat that looks like a ball of cookie dough. In addition, they have powerful teeth. These sharks forced nuclear submarines to return to base after their bites disabled cables and sonar domes. These sharks have many other strange features, from their appearance to the fact that they glow for several hours after death. But what stands out most is their cookie dough bite. From Alien with a name like goblin sharks, you know we're sticking with a weird species. Shark from Alien. Just look at the goblin sharks. They have a sword-like object sticking out of their head. Goblin sharks look so unique because they are the only surviving species of an ancient shark species. Goblin sharks are very large. The recently captured female measured nearly 20 feet in length. Goblins live in the deep layers of the ocean. Goblin jaws are one of the most incredible adaptations. The jaws rapidly extend forward like a catapult, protruding from the body 10 times further than those of other shark species. Even if you're trying to imagine what it looks like, think of the creature from Alien. Bull sharks are aggressive sharks that will go literally anywhere in search of food. Bull sharks typically inhabit a lake in Nicaragua that they have to jump over rapids to get to, like salmon making their way across a river to spawn. They have been seen 2,500 miles upriver searching for food. In 2010, after the city of Brisbane was flooded, they were seen on city streets. Bull sharks have adaptations that allow them to live in both fresh and salt water, and these predators take advantage of this. They are also extremely aggressive and have even been seen fighting hippos. Whale sharks are big, you probably know that. But how big are they? Whale shark eggs are twice the size of ostrich eggs. The largest whale shark to ever exist was 62 feet long. That's the size of a bowling alley. Due to their enormous size, whale sharks also take a long time to reach sexual maturity. Males reach about 25 years of age before they are able to reproduce, and can live up to 130 years. Despite their enormous size, whale sharks are harmless to humans. They filter food and have more than 3,000 teeth, which they use to crush krill, eggs, and larvae. Sharks with equipmentectomy are very rare. The first video of this one was recorded only in 2004. Crested sharks are another living fossil species of shark that are more eel-like than most modern sharks, as are cutter sharks. Saltwater sharks migrate to the surface of the ocean to hunt at night and spend the day deep below the ocean's surface. One interesting fact about striped sharks is that their gestation period can be up to 3.5 years. The sand tiger shark can gulp air from the surface, allowing it to ambush prey in shipwrecks. Most shark species need to move to breathe. That is, if sharks stop swimming, they die. Sand tiger sharks have an adaptation that allows them to swallow air on the surface, and then the underwater predator can lie motionless and for a long time on the seabed. This makes sand tiger sharks particularly effective hunters around shipwrecks, as they can lie still in ambush and pounce on prey as it passes by. The thresher shark has a tail as long as its own body, with which the predator whips its prey. Thresher sharks have recently been discovered to migrate to areas where millions of fish congregate around reefs. With huge fish bait balls, the thresher shark's whip is especially effective. The mako shark is considered dangerous to humans due to its speed. Mako can attack aggressively and quickly. This underwater predator has even been known to jump into fishing boats. Wild short-toed shark. The bullet-shaped body allows the shark to reach speeds of up to 46 miles per hour. Short-toed makos are made for one thing: speed. These sharks are not small. Makos can reach over 14 feet in length, and the largest short-toed mako ever recorded weighed 1,300 pounds. Short-toed makos have been recorded to reach speeds of up to 46 miles per hour, making these sharks the fastest shark species in the world. Besides the fact that makos are built for speed, these sharks are also extremely intelligent with a high brain-to-body ratio. The crazy thing about epaulet sharks is that they can walk on land. This species is not particularly large, reaching just under 4 feet in length at maturity. Epaulet sharks prefer to hunt close to land, in tide pools, which results in them often becoming stranded. To avoid death if the tide ebbs too quickly, epaulets have developed a unique adaptation that allows them to slow down their breathing and heart rate and survive for up to 1 hour while they return to the water. Yes, it really is a shark that can walk on land, but not for long. Wild Pondicherry shark fact: the Pondicherry shark was thought to be extinct since the 1970s before one was found in 2019. Finally, we will conclude our review of shark species by focusing on the Pondicherry sharks. Many sharks have seen their populations decline in recent decades, and they continue to face threats such as overfishing. The Pondicherry shark was thought to be extinct for almost 4 decades until it was recently discovered at a fish market. Although sharks do not face the same rate of extinction as other mammals, their populations continue to decline. Unless measures are taken to further protect the species, other species outside Pondicherry may face the prospect of extinction. The evolution of snakes remains one of the most amazing mysteries of our planet. The first snakes appeared about 130 million years ago, and since then they have continued to amaze us with their features and adaptations. Snakes differ from other reptiles in their special body structure. They are limbless, and their body has a long and flexible shape, allowing them to penetrate into the narrowest corners and crawl on various surfaces. Of course, this anatomy is the result of millions of years of evolution, but the mechanisms that led to such changes still remain a mystery. The remains of snakes have always caused difficulties in their study. Most snakes are small and relatively fragile creatures, which means their body remains are often incomplete and scattered. This creates difficulties in understanding their evolutionary origins. However, modern research in genetics and paleontology allows us to get closer to the solution to this evolution. Today, the prevailing view is that snakes evolved from some kind of terrestrial lizard of the early Cretaceous period. One of the most likely ancestors of snakes are considered to be varanids, a group of lizards that includes the largest modern representatives of lizards. Monitor lizards. Monitor lizards are majestic and powerful creatures that reach impressive sizes and are one of the top of the food chain in their ecosystems. It is interesting to note that the prehistoric snakes may have been close relatives of the giant prehistoric monitor lizard Megalania. Megalania was a huge lizard, measuring about 25 feet or almost 8 meters from head to tail, and weighing over 2 tons. This is one of the largest land reptiles that ever lived on Earth. Although we can only guess at the rate of evolution of snakes of such gigantic size, fossil evidence indicates that such creatures did exist. To say that snake evolution is mysterious is an understatement. Despite the fact that we already know a lot about the origin and development of these amazing creatures, many questions remain unanswered. However, through ongoing research and new discoveries, we hope to unravel more of this amazing evolutionary history in the near future. Until recently, Giganophis was considered the largest prehistoric snake in the world of paleontology. This amazing creature reached a length of about 33 feet or 10 meters from head to tail and weighed at least half a ton. According to its classification, Giganophis belonged to the group of Madtsoid snakes, which indicates its close relationship with the widespread genus Madtsoia. Tetrapodophis. This snake was an inhabitant of the Cretaceous period, approximately 110 million years ago, and its remains were discovered in Brazil's fossil-rich Crato Formation. Tetrapodophis was a tiny creature, only 8 inches or 20 centimeters long, and it lived on the shores of a salt lake, among dense thickets of succulents and other drought-resistant plants. Its diet likely consisted of small amphibians and lizards that hid among the plants, providing shelter from the dinosaurs and pterosaurs that lived in abundance in the area. Surprisingly, the remains of Tetrapodophis's last meal, a salamander, were preserved between the bones of his skeleton, in the place where the intestines were located during life. This gives us an interesting insight into its food preference and its role in the ecosystem. Tetrapodophis's body had several adaptations to its burrowing lifestyle, suggesting its ability to adapt to life in the ground. However, Dolichosaurids, which included Tetrapodophis, also had adaptations for swimming. This highlights the uniqueness and diversity of snake evolution and their ability to adapt to different environments and lifestyles. The history of the evolution of snakes and their diversity still aroused the admiration and interest of scientists. Each new discovery brings us closer to understanding these amazing and mysterious creatures. But there are still many questions waiting to be answered. Pachyrhis is an ideal intermediate form between lizards and snakes. These ancient reptiles possessed a purely snake-like body, complete with scales, a python-like head, and a pair of vestigial hind limbs located a few centimeters from the end of the tail. Pachyrhis lived 120 million years ago and measured 40 inches and weighed 2 pounds. Haseophis. Some paleontologists believe that Haseophis was related to the older snakes of the genus Pachyrhis, but most of the evidence places these snakes in a separate genus. Haseophis is an extinct genus of snakes with preserved hind limbs, represented by one known species, Haseophis terrasanctus. His remains were found in Palestine. This is one of 3 genera of snakes from the Cenomanian stage that have hind limbs. The genus was named after the late paleontologist George Haas, who first began working on the fossils from Hyaenodon and before his death began describing the genus, plus the Greek word ophis for snake. The species name terrasanctus means holy land. The snake measured about 40 inches, or just over a meter, and had 75 teeth. Haseophis lived 100 million years ago and was a very toothy snake. Madzoia is an extinct species of prehistoric snake that appeared on Earth approximately 90 million years ago and went extinct 2 million years ago. These reptiles lived in the Cretaceous and Pleistocene periods. The remains of these creatures were first discovered in the 1930s in Argentina. The species was named by George Gaylord Simpson in 1933. Now let's talk about another snake called Najash rhyonegrina. This reptile lived in wooded areas of South America. It received its common name in honor of the legendary serpent from the biblical tradition who tempted Adam and Eve to eat the forbidden fruit. Najash lived in Patagonia about 90 million years ago. The anatomy of the Patagonian snake clearly indicates that it lived in burrows. It had 2 small hind legs, which it used from time to time, mainly moving along the ground, like modern snakes. Proponents of the aquatic origin of snakes claim that their ancestors were mosasaurs. They theorize that snakes began to evolve during the Jurassic period, about 150 million years ago. However, science currently lacks any documentary evidence to support this claim. During the early Cretaceous, snakes diversified into several groups, including terrestrial snakes such as Najash, as well as aquatic snakes. It is possible that different forms of snakes independently and simultaneously lost their limbs. The pendulum has now swung towards the terrestrial origin of snakes. But the available fossil evidence is clearly insufficient to reach a definitive conclusion. However, the discovery in Patagonia will challenge supporters of the marine hypothesis and stimulate further research in this area. Sanae. This creature lived 70 million years ago in the territory of modern India. Sanae was significantly smaller in size than the world's largest prehistoric snake. But it is the only species that hunted dinosaurs with much confidence. Mainly for babies and small species of dinosaurs. Titanoboa. This is the largest prehistoric snake in the world that has ever lived on our planet. This giant snake reached 50 feet or 15 meters in length and weighed about 1 ton. The only reason why Titanoboa did not hunt dinosaurs is that this giant appeared several million years after the death of the kings of the Cretaceous period. South American Titanoboas that were over 50 feet or 15 meters long and thought to have weighed up to 1 ton. Oddly enough, Titanoboa date back to the Middle Paleocene era, about 5 million years after the dinosaurs went extinct, but millions of years before mammals evolved to gigantic size. The only logical conclusion is that this prehistoric snake was hunting equally huge prehistoric crocodiles, a scenario you can expect to see in a computer simulation in some future television special. It is also possible that the paths of this snake sometimes crossed with the same giant prehistoric tortoise Carbonemys. Sanaja indicus was a species of prehistoric snake that lived in India about 70 million years ago. Unlike its larger relative, the Titanoboa, Sanic was smaller in size, but is believed to be the only species of snake that hunted dinosaurs with great confidence. Sanica's main prey was probably baby dinosaurs and small species of these prehistoric creatures. Its appearance occurred in the Middle Paleocene era, when there were no longer dinosaurs, but there was still no development of giant mammals. These interesting creatures represent an amazing example of the variety and size that existed in the prehistoric world. The Wanambi is a large strangler snake that lived in Australia about 40,000 years ago. She preferred to live near water sources, where she hunted kangaroos, wallabies, and other animals that came to drink. The Aborigines forbade their children to play in these places because of the danger posed by the Wanambi. The description of the Wanambi is based on fossils found in South Australia. It is the first known extinct snake to be discovered in Australia. Its name comes from the local Aboriginal people and means rainbow snake, as it was mentioned in mythology as such. About 10 years ago, paleontologists using the latest technology discovered a snake with hind legs and sediments about 95 million years old. This discovery made it possible to identify the ancestor of snakes and unravel the mystery of the evolutionary process of loss of legs in these reptiles. Fossils belonging to the snake Eupotophus descoensi were found in 2000 in the Lebanese village of Al-Namura. The dimensions of this reptile were about 50 centimeters in length. The discovered remains were transferred to the Paris Museum of Natural History for further research. Since both legs of this snake were equally developed, we can conclude that the absence of parts of the limb was not the result of injury or developmental defects, but indicates the beginning of the reduction of legs in the ancestors of snakes. This interesting discovery has helped expand our knowledge of the process of evolution and adaptation of reptiles. Currently, there are only 3 fossil snakes with preserved hind limbs and lost forelimbs. They are classified into 3 different groups: Hyaenodon, Pachyopus, and Eupotophus. Due to some genetic changes, the paws were unable to, if they could not fully form in the embryonic period, snakes were born with slightly unfinished legs. There were 2 mutational genes that were responsible for the development of limbs. As a result, these 2 genes disappeared and the development of paws in ancient snakes stopped. All known snakes are predators. Snakes feed on a variety of animals, including marine life, vertebrates and invertebrates. There are species of snakes that specialize in eating a certain type of prey, that is, stenophages. For example, the glossy crayfish snake, Liodites rigida, feeds almost exclusively on crayfish, and African egg snakes, Dasypeltis, feed only on bird eggs. Non-venomous snakes swallow prey alive, for example, snakes, or first kill it by squeezing it with their jaws and pressing their body to the ground or suffocating it in body coils. Venomous snakes kill prey by injecting venom into its body using specialized venom-conducting teeth. Snakes typically swallow their prey whole. The swallowing mechanism consists of alternating movement of the right and left halves of the lower jaw. The snake, as it were, pulls itself onto its prey. Some species of snakes feed on other snakes, such as king cobras. The ancestors of snakes led a burrowing lifestyle. Therefore, a long body was necessary in order to more easily squeeze through the ground. Also, in connection with this, they gradually lost the external openings of their ears, so that the earth would not become clogged. Limbs and movable eyelids, because there is no need for them underground. In moist soil, the eyes do not dry out, but instead have acquired a transparent film formed from fused eyelids, protecting the eye. Which is why it seems that the snake is hypnotizing us, and it seems to us that its gaze is motionless. For quite a long time, lizards from the group of monitor lizards, Varanidae, were considered the ancestors of snakes. These lizards, like snakes, have a long and movable tongue, and additional movable articulation of the branches of the lower jaw, as well as a vertebral structure similar to snakes. In addition, earless monitor lizards, Laernulaer, living in Indonesia, as their name suggests, like snakes, lack external ear openings. However, the details of the skull structure of monitor lizards and snakes are very different, and in addition, molecular DNA analysis shows that the two groups are very distant from each other. Also against this version is the fact that among the monitor lizards there are no representatives leading a completely underground lifestyle, but with another group of modern lizards, called geckos, Geckonidae, snakes have much more common structural features. In particular, the skulls of snakes and geckos are completely devoid of temporal arches and have a movable articulation of the lower jaw bones. The eyelids of many geckos, like those of snakes, are fused and form the transparent outer shell of the eye. And finally, among these lizards there are those whose children have a burrowing lifestyle. The most characteristic here are representatives of the subfamily Lepidopus. Its representatives, living in Australia and New Guinea, have a snake-like elongated body and in appearance are extremely reminiscent of snakes. This similarity is also emphasized by the absence of the forelimbs and significant reduction of the hind limbs, which usually have the appearance of short, scaly outgrowths sometimes ending in claws, as well as the absence of external openings of the ears. Of course, it is unlikely that scalepods were the direct ancestors of snakes. However, apparently, these are one of their closest relatives. In addition, molecular research data also suggests that, in terms of DNA structure, the closest relatives of snakes are geckos. According to these data, geckos and snakes separated from other squamates 180 million years ago, and the separation of these groups occurred a little later, approximately 165 million years ago. That is, approximately when, according to paleontologists, this group arose. So everything fits here too. So, a new research technique has helped scientists fill a gap in the history of reptiles and solve one of the most intriguing mysteries of evolution. It should be noted that paleontologists generally have high hopes for this technique. It allows you to obtain images with a resolution of several microns, 1,000 times less than what a hospital tomograph provides. And to obtain a three-dimensional image, fossil bones need only be rotated at a small angle and several thousand two-dimensional images taken until a full 360-degree rotation is completed. From these images, a 3D image is then compiled using a special computer program, showing not only the surface, but also the internal structure of the bones. So, perhaps in the near future this research technique will help solve other evolutionary mysteries. And many gaps in the history of various groups of animals will be filled. Planet Earth appeared 4.5 billion years ago. Few of us are able to realize how much this is, because a person's life spans only a few decades. The fauna that appeared on Earth consisted of primitive creatures that evolved over several billion years. Single-celled organisms gradually learned to photosynthesize and obtain their own nutrients. One of the main niches for the prosperity of life before dinosaurs was occupied by these interesting creatures, trilobites. The time of their heyday and death was the entire Paleozoic era, which began 550 million years ago. When the first trilobites appeared, none of the creatures had yet reached land, and when the last trilobite died, the ancestors of mammals and dinosaurs were already roaming the forests, and during all this time there were so many trilobites that in numbers and diversity of species they exceeded most of the groups of multicellular animals that lived then. If the Mesozoic era can be called the era of dinosaurs, then the Paleozoic era can be called the era of trilobites. Trilobites look similar in appearance to modern wood lice isopodous crustaceans, which may have occupied their niches after extinction, but these are not crustaceans, but a separate class of arthropods, very primitive, with some structural features, it is believed, reminiscent of polychaete worms. They didn't even have jaws, and they crushed food with special outgrowths of the 3 front pairs of legs. Over 15,000 species of trilobites are known, from the smallest, no more than a few millimeters in length, to almost a meter long. They were different, smooth, lumpy, spiky, with huge eyes, small and no eyes at all, with long branching outgrowths, with a body consisting of 2 segments or several dozen, in the same place, without interfering with each other. Dozens of species of trilobites with shells of various shapes could live. Their diet and lifestyle were very different. Most of them crawled along the bottom and ate detritus, algae, and small benthos. Their stomach was located at the front end of the body, between the eyes, where the brains of decent creatures should be located. Some trilobites spent their lives buried entirely in silt. These had eyes on stalks to stick them out. Like many marine arthropods, trilobites passed through the planktonic larval stage in their development, and some small trilobites led a planktonic existence all their lives. They have huge eyes, and when folded, large unprotected holes remained on the sides of the shell, the exit points for long swimming limbs. Swimming trilobites acquired wide and flat tail shields. Such species had light shells and many processes that acted as hydrofoils to float in the water column. Morning iata by some groups of trilobites in some cases may be associated with life in silt or in waters strongly agitated by currents in silt accumulation zones. In others, with life in the dark at great depths. Some species of trilobites were predators in Sweden. Traces of some animals living in the ground and traces left by trilobites were discovered. In this case, the trace of the trilobite covers the trace of an animal living in the ground, and it breaks off. The trilobite ate it. In Yakutia, trilobites were found with preserved particles of the bodies of sponges and brachiopods in the intestines. Some trilobites had a completely atrophied digestive tract, and they obtained nutrients through symbiosis with bacteria living near underwater volcanic springs. Other trilobites dug complex networks of tunnels in the ground in which they lived. In this form, they were discovered in a Swedish limestone quarry. The details of the underground life of trilobites are still unknown. They may have been hiding in the tunnels from predators like the nautiluses that scoured the Paleozoic oceans in search of prey. Or perhaps they used the water flowing through the tunnels to oxygenate their gills, as some modern lobsters do. Like all other arthropods, trilobites molt from time to time. The shed exoskeletons sometimes lie in large piles, apparently trilobites, like modern crabs and lobsters, gathered together during molting to protect each other. In addition, trilobites were discovered that died when they lined up in long chains, apparently. This is the oldest example of a nomadic line now found among crustaceans. Perhaps trilobites also undertook seasonal migrations. With all their diversity, they all resembled each other, and when you see a fossilized trilobite, you can always immediately say that it is a trilobite and not something else. Their very name trilobites means three-lobed. Their shell consisted of three sections, a central, or axial, and two flattened lateral ones on both sides. Many fossilized remains of trilobites have damage indicating that they were hunted by fish, before them by cephalopods, and even earlier by various strange creatures like Anomalocaris. To protect themselves, trilobites learned to curl up into a ball, like woodlice trams. Some grew spikes, horns, and other cunning squiggles on their shells. Many trilobites were frightened before death and were found in this position. During their lifetime, their chitinous shells were saturated with mineral salts, which made them literally stone. After death, for millions of years spent in the earth, shell minerals are usually replaced by other compounds, a process common in fossils. However, the compound eyes of many trilobites remained unchanged, the same as during life. Particularly impressive are the eyes of some trilobites found in the Hamar Langdad Formation in Morocco. They are green, ranging from turquoise to emerald. It turned out that in compound eyes, lenses consisting of calcite with an admixture of magnesium were preserved. A study using an electron microscope showed that some trilobites have preserved their eyes almost as they were during the life of these long-extinct creatures. The lenses have not been replaced, since they are actually single crystals of calcite. They even retained their optical properties. The atoms in them are ordered in such a way that the optical axis of the crystals coincides with the optical axis of the lens. Different species of trilobites, belonging to dozens of families and orders, have mastered different ecological niches. Most of them were mud eaters crawling along the bottom, but there were also free-swimming species, even predators. As already mentioned, trilobites became completely extinct more than 200 million years ago. The only animals living today that are remotely similar to them are horseshoe crabs. They also appeared in the Ordovician period, but unlike trilobites, 5 of their species have survived to this day. These living fossils live in several parts of the world ocean and are similar to trilobites both in their lifestyle and in many anatomical details. But although they descend from a common ancestor, horseshoe crabs belong to a completely different class of arthropods. Perhaps somewhere on the ocean floor the last of the trilobite tribe are hiding. Their discovery would be a sensation, moreover, than the discovery of living dinosaurs, whose era is only 60 million years away from ours, and such sensations happen quite often in recent years. Moreover, trilobites are found not in the depths of the ocean, but in the most populated places in Russia. So, back in 2007, creatures unknown to science were discovered in one of the abandoned pits in Chelyabinsk. Around the same time, these same palm-sized creatures were apparently seen somewhere in the Moscow region, and last year there was a report about trilobites caught in some pond and taken to the Alma-Ata Zoo. In fact, in many regions of Russia, such trilobites swarm in almost every puddle in the summer. They are called shieldfish and belong to crustaceans. Simply put, these are crustaceans, but not crawling, but swimming, similar to Daphnia and Cyclops, known to all aquarists. Only larger, they can be up to 8 centimeters wide. They really look like trilobites, but here we are dealing with convergence. Animals leading a similar lifestyle in the process of evolution acquire a similar appearance, such as sharks and dolphins. People often ask how shield bugs appear in drying out puddles and pits. The answer is very simple. Microscopic scale insect eggs are carried by the wind from dry puddles. Shields inhabit a vast area unevenly, and their numbers fluctuate from year to year. But the main reason for such sensations is still psychological. After seeing an animal with a surreal appearance, townspeople who are far from nature naively believe that such and such a monster is definitely unknown to science.
After the disappearance of dinosaurs, many ecological niches were occupied by rather unusual creatures. One of the most dangerous predators of the Cenozoic era were hyaenodons. This family included a huge number of species. Among them were small hunters like martens, and giants larger in size than modern lions and tigers. But at the beginning of the Oligocene, they all died out, unable to withstand competition with animals more adapted to the new conditions of existence. Hyaenodons, they are one of the most successful predators of their time. Over almost 2/10 millions of years of their existence, they settled across all continents except Australia and Antarctica. The family Hyaenodontidae included several dozen very diverse genera. The first of them appeared about 41 million years ago, and the last ones died out about 5 to 7 million years ago. Of the modern animals, the closest relatives of hyaenodons are hyenas. The main structural feature of hyaenodons is their disproportionately large head with huge jaws. Its length was approximately a quarter of the total body length of the predator. This head was attached to a powerful short neck located almost vertically. Also, strong neck muscles helped hyaenodons hold their prey. It was their teeth that were their main weapon. Their shape made it easy to cut soft tissue. It is also believed that hyaenodon teeth were self-sharpening. A very unusual feature of the body structure of hyaenodons was the location of the eyes. They were placed on the sides of the head, which is completely uncharacteristic for predatory animals. In the modern world, only herbivores have this arrangement of eyes in land animals. But for some reason, this did not stop the hyaenodons from focusing on prey when attacking from an ambush. The height of the smallest members of the family was no more than 30 centimeters. They had short, knobby legs. The hyaenodon's fingers were spread wide apart. This indicates the ability to move quickly on a hard surface. The largest hyaenodons reached a height of 170 centimeters. Their limbs were longer and thinner. The front and hind legs were the same length. Using their hind limbs, these predators could make sharp lunges to attack prey or rivals. The front legs of hyaenodons were adapted for digging the ground. Perhaps with their help, animals dug small rodents out of the ground or built their own dens. It is believed that hyaenodons, especially large ones, were good short-distance runners. True, they could not develop the same speed as, for example, modern canines. But their endurance was enough to drive away the chosen victim by attacking from an ambush. It is also believed that hyaenodons were school predators. Pterodons are considered one of the earliest hyaenodontids. Probably one of the Asian subspecies of their ancestors gave rise to the entire family. Pterodons themselves lived over vast territories from Kenya and Egypt to China and Pakistan approximately 30 to 40 million years ago. They got their name, meaning flying tooth, because of the similarity of their teeth to those of the marsupial marten. The body length of pterodons ranged from 100 to 130 centimeters. Of this, about 20 centimeters accounted for the massive elongated skull. The legs of these ancient predators were short compared to the proportions of the body. Externally, pterodons were similar to modern dogs. The Hyaenodon family belongs to the order Creodonti. Until recently, creodonts were considered the ancestors of all true predators, which include almost all modern carnivorous mammals. Hyaenod, which gave the name to the whole family, appeared on Earth approximately 41 million years ago. His remains are found throughout Eurasia and North America. The name of this animal means hyena tooth. His teeth and jaws had great hardness and strength. They could bite through the largest bones. These were dog-like creatures with large skulls of various sizes. The smallest of them had a head measuring from 10 to 16 centimeters. Although they themselves were the size of modern mustelids or large rodents in length. The skulls of the largest hyaenodons available to scientists are 40 to 50 centimeters long. But most representatives of the Hyaenodon genus were comparable in size to modern wolves or dogs. Small hyaenodons could lead a semi-arboreal lifestyle. Larger representatives of this genus lived in steppes or woodlands. There they set up ambushes near water bodies or in other places where herbivores gathered. The giant Hyaenodon is considered the largest in this genus. This monster lived in Mongolia from 37 to 28.5 million years ago. Its length was up to 3.5 meters, height about 1 meter. Moreover, it could weigh from 200 to 400 kilograms. Some scientists believe that the mass of this predator could exceed half a ton. Outwardly, this animal resembles a large cat with a huge dog head. Its head was huge even for a Hyaenodon. Researchers have at their disposal the skulls of a giant Hyaenodon 62 centimeters long. All the teeth in its huge jaws were adapted only for cutting flesh. The greatest pressure was created by the base of the jaws. To do this, they could open 75 degrees. Other representatives of the genus Hyaenodon were not so large. For example, the mass of the small-toothed Hyaenodon and the marten-like Hyaenodon did not exceed 5 kilograms. Despite its name, the terrible Hyaenodon was no larger than modern wolves. It was the largest and most successful known North American Hyaenodon. This predator lived in the United States on the border of the Eocene and Oligocene eras. He weighed approximately 40 to 60 kilograms. The body length of the terrible Hyaenodon was about 1.5 meters. The skull measured approximately 30 to 32 centimeters. But the largest animals in the Hyaenodontid family belonged to the genus Megastotheriae. These were later Hyaenodons, which were already slightly different from their ancestors. These giants lived in Africa and the Middle East in the Middle Miocene. They became extinct approximately 7 million years ago. They, along with the North American Hyaenolaers, are considered descendants of pterodons. The name Megastotherium means greatest beast, and he fully lives up to this ambitious name. At the moment, not many fossilized remains of this giant have been discovered, but the available finds are enough to say that its length could reach 4 meters and its height 1.8 meters. According to various estimates, the body weight of Megastotherium ranged from 800 to 1400 kilograms. Such dimensions make it one of the largest terrestrial predatory mammals. Megastotherium's prey included anthracotheriums, rhinoceroses, and other ancient proboscis and ungulate animals. He probably didn't disdain carrion either. Megastotherium already had a shorter snout, and the eyes were more displaced from the sides to the front of the head. But he could no longer compete with more developed representatives of the family of real predators. The structural features of the body allowed Hyaenodons to become one of the main predators of the second half of the Paleogene period. But in the second half of the Miocene, it became more difficult for them to compete for a place at the top of the food pyramid with new predators. Evolution has played a cruel joke on these unusual creatures. Their main weapon eventually caused the extinction of the entire family. As they developed, Hyaenodons relied on enlarging their teeth and jaws. Along with them, the proportions of the head also increased. This affected the delay in brain development. He simply did not have enough space in his skull for further growth. In addition, most of their brains were in the area responsible for smell. Prey became savvier and competitors more diverse. In the New World, the Hyaenodon's hunting methods became less effective, which led to the disappearance of these super predators. We express our deep gratitude to the viewers who watched this video to the end. From our other issues, you can learn about the life and development of other animals from different geological eras.